we want to continue to allow people with honest earned income to come to the U.S., to be able to invest in the U.S., and those that are not subject to sanction are free to do so.
Meet Kate Kalmikoff and Dina Golfaridin, two leading experts in U.S. immigration law. Kate Kalmikoff, co-chair of the Global Immigration and Compliance Practice at Greenberg Traurig, brings nearly 2 decades of experience specializing in EB5 and business immigration law. She structured over $12 billion in EB5 deals and is a recognized leader in the field. Dina Golfaridin, a legal consultant at the American Legal Center, has spent years helping Iranian clients navigate the EB5 golden visa process. With a JD from George Washington University and a strong background in international law, Dina's expertise has guided countless families to secure their U.S. residency through the EB5 program. Together, they offer unmatched experience and dedication to making your immigration journey seamless and successful. I'm Shay Zamanian, founder of the American Legal Center. I'm going to act as your EB5 guru, curating the best content of EB5 so you don't have to spend time scouring the internet looking for that. I'm going to introduce you to all the established players in the EB5 game and why they're important. I'll help you analyze, ask all the important questions about the EB5 process so you have actionable takeaways to apply it to your EB5 visa journey. Our offices are based in downtown Dubai. We are a team of US licensed lawyers and are your active guides through the EB5 process. We help you gather all your documents for your application, find the best projects to invest in, and coordinate your filing with Washington, D.C. We have filed the most EB5 applications from the region and have the experience and breadth of knowledge to ensure your success. Now let's get started. Applicants from Iran. What are their worries? What should they look out for? And how to be successful with the U.S. Golden Visa, which is called the EB5 program or the EB5 visa. Today, I'm with 2 amazing lawyers, U.S. licensed lawyers, and that have had experience and know their way around in dealing with Iranian clients. So let's get started. So we've got Kate Kalmikoff. You work for Greenberg Traurig. You are the Global Immigration and Compliance Co-Chair at Greenberg Traurig. You're based on the East Coast, yes?
Correct.
We also have Dina. So you and I work here in the Dubai offices at the American Legal Center.
Right.
Dina Golfaridin.
Yes.
There you go. And of course, I'm your host, Shay Zamanian, or for our Iranian clients, Shahriyar Zamanian. Let's get started. So, Dina, you get calls all the time from our Iranian clients. They call our offices. Obviously, you're able to speak in Farsi. Tell me about what they're worried about. Let's go through some of the questions that they constantly ask you. Perhaps as a group here, we can kind of come to terms in answering some of those things.
Sure. Before I get started with the questions, I just wanted to say a note for our Farsi viewers in Farsi, and then we can get started. سلام به همگی، من دینا هستم. امروز اینجا با شی و کیت نشستیم که راجع به EB5 پروگرام با شما صحبت بکنیم. ما هر 3 وکیل مهاجرتی هستیم که توی آمریکا تحصیل کردیم و لایسنس وکالتمون رو از ایالات متحده داریم. همونطور که گفتم امروز میخوایم راجع به EB5 پروگرام با شما صحبت بکنیم که یه برنامه دولتیه که به سرمایه‌گذاران خارجی اجازه میده که برای خودشون و خانوادهشون که شامل همسر و فرزندان زیر 21 سال میشه درخواست گرین کارت آمریکا رو بکنن از طریق یه سرمایه‌گذاری $800,000 توی یک پروژه در آمریکا. تیم ما بالای 10 سال هستش که توی این زمینه EB5 تجربه کاری داره. دفترمون توی دبی هست، توی داونتاون دبی هستیم. خوشحال میشیم بیاین پیش ما، با ما ملاقات داشته باشین. امیدوارم که بتونیم بهتون توی این زمینه کمک بکنیم. تا حالا خیلی کلاینت های ایرانی داشتیم و امروز میخوایم بیشتر صحبت بکنیم راجع به بیشترین سوالاتی که ازمون میشه از طرف کلاینت های ایرانیمون. همونطور که گفتم امیدوارم که بهتون کمک بکنین اپیزود که بیشتر راجع به EB5 پروگرام یاد بگیرین. این اپیزود به انگلیسی هست ولی اگر که مشاوره به زبان فارسی میخوان میتونین با ما تماس بگیرین و ما میتونیم تمامی اطلاعات رو به زبان فارسی هم به شما بدیم. Okay.
بسیار عالی. I wish you understood what she's saying. She's so eloquent and so happy to have you a part of our team. So are you going to guide the questions for today?
Yes, I will. Okay,
Let's get started.
I wanted to discuss with you guys the top questions and considerations that most of our Iranian clients bring up. And the first one relates to issues regarding the transfer of money to the United States. Now, as you know, because of the sanctions, many Iranians are restricted from accessing international banking institutions, and they have difficulties in transferring their money to the U.S., and so they have to use exchange houses or money transfer agents. So my first question to you, Kate, is how often do you have this issue come up, and what are some ways to address it?
Well, we have this issue come up almost daily in our practice because Iran is just one of the many countries that has to deal with this issue. So there's a whole host of countries that have the same currency restriction issues: India, Vietnam, China, Egypt. So there's a lot of countries that we deal with this, and we're very experienced in dealing with it because over time we have seen what the trends are in government adjudication. What they want to see is money exchange occurring through a licensed money exchanger, and if you can present that information to the USCIS, then the case will be approved. Likewise, they will accept transfers from friends and family up to a certain amount, depending on the specific country conditions. And a lot of times we find with Iranian clients that we can speak to them about their source of funds, and they already have money outside the country,
right,
that they've opened multiple accounts. They have them perhaps in Dubai, perhaps in Turkey and other places, and they're able to take those funds, show the source and the path of them, and transfer them for their EB5 investment.
Right. Shay, do you have anything to
Absolutely. So I think maybe the idea behind this is Iranians perhaps have a little bit of fear because when they go to a sarraf or an exchange house, it feels clandestine. It feels very secretive. It's not a part of, the standard institutional process of sending money. So maybe they're fearful that it's not going to be possible or that ultimately they wouldn't get approved. Maybe one point is that Iran's not alone in this, right? So you've got, for example, China and India. There are certain restrictions in various countries on how much they can send abroad. So they can't use their ordinary channels all the time either. So it's not just Iran that's using exchange houses when they're trying to apply for their EB5 program. Don't feel alone in this. And people from China, India, Iran are constantly approved. As Kate, you were mentioning, so long as we get the right documentation, which is some registration documents. And obviously, our offices will guide you and tell you what documents you need to make sure that that piece of the puzzle, we can get through and ultimately get your approval.
But I think the message is it's 100% possible. We get approvals weekly with this set of facts, and it's nothing to be afraid of. We just have to meet the requirements.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, so the next question that I have for you guys, which is sort of related to the first one, is about the OFAC requirement. So as we know, according to the federal laws, specifically Section 560.505 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Iranians don't need a specific OFAC license to transfer funds to the United States. So my question to you, Kate, is what do you think the intentions of Congress were in carving out this exception for Iranian nationals?
I think any time OFAC adopts sanctions, they have a specific goal in mind. And the goal here was restricting transfers from government institutions. Private citizens who have nothing to do with the government, whose funds are not touching, any or being sourced from any kind of government activity, because the U.S. has no issue with the people of Iran, right, at all. And our foreign policy is not against the people of Iran at all. So the goal was to enable them to transfer funds, not requiring a specific OFAC license. And we've done it in many Iranian cases. We include exactly, you have 3 lawyers at the table when they start citing regulations. We include that information and, routinely it goes through. But we want to continue to allow people with honest earned income to come to the U.S., to be able to invest in the U.S., and those that are not subject to sanction are free to do so.
Exactly. Yeah, we have this issue come up a lot, and it's something that our clients are worried about, and we keep telling them, and we refer them to the federal statutes and tell them that, you know, there's nothing that you have to be worried about, and if need be, we even speak to the bank representatives to sort out this issue for them.
By the way, Dina, OFAC, which is a very different agency than USCIS, you can actually hire an attorney to contact them and say, do I need a license in this circumstance? And they will actually respond to you via email and say, no, you don't. So that's something certain clients, if they need an extra level of comfort, a service that can be provided to them.
They are an excellent resource. They even have a list of persons, if you're worried about whether I should apply for this program, am I blacklisted, are there maybe background details about that Iranian applicant where they might face hurdles in the future. The OFAC has on their website a searchable search engine where certain people that wouldn't qualify would be then listed on there.
Right.
So that's another thing that we do in-house, right? So if a client's worried, we go through and do a full, thorough search to ensure that we don't meet any hurdles when it comes to transferring money, because they wouldn't be on a watch list ultimately.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for that. So my next question is about the travel ban. So a lot of our Iranian clients are worried that if Trump were to become president again, he would issue another travel ban, and they're worried that this would negatively impact their existing or new EB5 application. So before I go to you, Kate, about the possibility of this scenario, I just wanted to ask Shay, because you dealt with this during the Trump presidency. So I just wanted to see, how did you deal with it? What advice did you give to your clients?
Boy, that was a roller coaster. So here we are. Obviously, I grew up in the U.S., and then I moved to the Middle East to help people obtain visas, go to the U.S., move to the U.S., and then we get this special character, right? So Donald Trump comes into practice and through executive order decides that certain nationalities will be banned from entering the U.S., merely just based on their nationality. So it was Iranian, Syrian, Sudanese. It was all types of clients that, they live here. They live in the Middle East. They live in Dubai. And so it was our office that was affected by this, not, migration agents that, for example, are doing this in China or other places. So we had a lot of clients that invested money into the U.S. economy with the hopes and desires of moving there. But here's the thing, USCIS as an agency, that never became an issue. They provided the approvals. They were agnostic when it came to, the executive decisions on visas itself. So you would get approved for the EB5, but then when it came time to going to the embassies, that's when it became a tricky order. So we had to figure it out. So what was happening is at the embassy in Abu Dhabi, our clients were not let through the door. They would tell us, look, we understand that they have a vested right in getting a visa, but based on the executive decision, we can't let them through the door today. Or we kind of don't know what to do. So when a government agency says we don't know what to do, that's ripe for what's called a writ of mandamus. This is an instrument where you can essentially sue the government, use the forces of the federal courts, and get their guidance in helping government agencies come to a decision on a topic that they don't know how to administer. So that's exactly what we did. We filed a writ of mandamus, and we brought this to light. We weren't sure if we were going to win on first instance or if we had to appeal to a higher court, but we did win on first instance, and this has been resolved within the region. All of the clients that were Iranian, Syrian, Sudanese, all these clients that were affected, they were then let through, and ultimately they are now living in the U.S. So that was a success story for us, but it definitely did cause us a moment of pause. So that's how we dealt with it. Kate, talk to us about what could happen in the future. I know we're worried about Trump coming into power. Maybe, maybe not. Perhaps we hope not. But if he does, what happens then?
I think clients should rest assured that the Supreme Court has ruled on this, and they struck it down as unconstitutional. There is a long history within the immigration laws of a prohibition on national origin or citizenship discrimination. We actually have an entire office in the Department of Justice that deals with that. So there's nothing to worry about. Even if you try to institute it again, it's already been struck down. It will be struck down again. And the court may 100% refuse to hear it even because they've already ruled on it. And when the Supreme Court, which is our highest court in the land, makes a decision, that's the law. And they don't need to hear it again. So I don't think that they would even entertain it. That doesn't mean that he can't institute heightened security checks, where he feels that people may pose a threat to the U.S., and with legitimate reason. If there's people who engage in criminal activity, terrorist activity, that's within his executive powers. But singling out a single nationality or 5 or 6 nationalities is not going to happen.
Great, thank you for that.
So for our Iranian clients, not to worry so much about that.
Not to worry at all.
Yes, exactly. And especially since USCIS already does a thorough check on the source of funds to ensure that it's legal. So we shouldn't be worried about the heightened security if it were to come to that as well.
You're still always going through a security check, right? So they do one on the source of funds, and then when that's approved and you go to apply for your immigrant visa at the consulate, every single applicant to the U.S. goes through 3 different security checks: an FBI check, a name check, a criminal records check. And so that's happening behind the scenes regardless.
Right.
So let's actually, you raised an important point about approvals. So Iranians ask all the time, what are the chances of approvals? What are they looking like? What is it really based on? So why don't we spend just a few moments, and Dina, why don't you chime in as well, because you've been dealing with a lot of our Iranian clients in gathering their documents. So I would say over 90% of the weight of whether you're going to be approved or not lies on whether you can prove a clean source of funds. Ultimately means, wherever that you've got your money, be able to explain it, and then we would tell you which documents to collect. We need to put together a set of documents that really prove up your story on how you've made your money to afford the program. So actually, let's throw it back to you. You've been helping a lot of Iranian clients gather their documents. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I would just say to our Iranian clients or those that are thinking about the EB5 program that...
You want to tell them in Farsi?
In Farsi? Okay, sure. اگر که میخواین راجع به EB5 پروگرام دارین فکر میکنین یا میخواین اقدام بکنین، نیازی نیستش که نگران باشین که نشنالیتیتون یعنی ایرانی بودنتون قرار شما رو تاثیر بدی یا تاثیر منفی رو اپلیکیشنتون داشته باشه. برای همه اپلیکنت های EB5 مهم نیستش که نشنالیتیشون چی باشه. گاورمنت آمریکا یعنی اداره مهاجرت مدارکشون ریویو میکنه و میخواد بدونه که منبع درآمدشون چی هست. این $800,000 که دارن استفاده میکنن برای اینوستمنت EB5شون دقیقاً از کجا میاد. شما وقتی با ما کار میکنین، ما باهاتون صحبت میکنیم، اول ببینیم که خب منبع درآمدتون چیه. اساس اون یه لیست داکیومنت به شما میدیم و اینکه اینا رو چک میکنیم. حتما مطمئن هستیم که شما رو پری کوالیفای بکنیم، یعنی اصلا شما قبل از اینکه بخواید هزینه‌ای به شرکت ما پرداخت بکنین یا بخواید اینوستمنتی انجام بدید توی آمریکا، تیم ما مدارک شما رو چک کرده و میدونیم که بر اساس تجربه 10 ساله‌ای که داریم توی این زمینه شما کاندید خوبی هستین برای این پروگرام یا نه.
یا خیر.
درسته.
Okay, what's the next topic?
Okay, sure. So I was going to talk about the mandatory military service. So a lot of our clients are worried that if they've done their mandatory military service in the IRGC, that this would negatively impact their application. So I wanted to ask you, Kate, have you had any clients get rejections because of this?
No, I haven't, and I've been processing Iranians for close to 20 years. So when you apply, you have to declare mandatory military service, and that includes regimes that we aren't necessarily in the best relations with, but it doesn't impact you as an individual. What would impact is if you made the military a career and you were fairly high up. That could possibly impact, and we should definitely have that discussion when we meet with the clients to see exactly what they were doing. But just mandatory military service, it must be declared, but it's not going to impact.
So what we see is the initial application, I-526 or I-526E, that gets approved. Where it can become tricky, and that's something that we will work with you with, is when it's time to go to the embassy. They'll ask you questions. Have you served in SEPA or anything like that? That's where you've got to answer in a very direct manner, and we will coach you on how to navigate those waters. Because based on just that one question, it could perhaps cause some issues if that advice and guidance isn't given to you. So going back to, it's not just Iran. There's a lot of countries throughout the world. You brought up, China, for example. It is a communist country. Mandatory, military compliance is necessary there, but a lot of people get through. So it's something to better educate yourself on, but you can certainly get through.
Exactly.
And get your visas and approvals.
As a reminder, military service is mandatory in Russia as well. And they routinely come in, no problem. So a lot of countries have that requirement.
Right. Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you, Shay, a question about sort of the nature of our Iranian clients, and that it's more difficult for them to trust us, or any immigration office for that matter. I've noticed that, for example, with our clients that are Iranian, it takes about 1 to 2 years of them talking to us and coming in for meetings for them to be able to trust us and sign up. So why do you think that is?
I think it's in our food. It's the parmesancy. It's something that makes us quite emotional and beautiful people in a sense. But Iran has, in modern history, over the last 40 years, has gone through a roller coaster of change. And it's difficult to do business, and it's difficult to trust, right? So when it comes to these parts of the world, perhaps it makes a little bit more sense for them to be critical. But I think definitely some of the things that I would say is meet people in person. So, I think meeting us, seeing the space, having interaction face-to-face, helping you ask the right questions. Sometimes clients don't know how to ask the right questions because they're new to this idea, and that's all right. So I think through the process of actually asking the right questions, they become more comfortable, but I agree that Iranians tend to be a little bit more critical in the whole idea of, I have to invest a big amount of money,
Right.
With the idea that I, would get access to the U.S. And also the concept of the U.S. is so far strong,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's sort of like the idea of going to Mars for some people, right? So, if you're European, you're like, oh yeah, I'll just go to the U.S. But for an Iranian, it's such a big deal, and it's an emotional sort of roller coaster. So it makes sense for them to be a little bit more critical. Also with Iranians, what I've noticed is they look to see who's had success. They're very based on sort of word of mouth. And also that's a place where you would benefit in talking to us, right? So Kate, you and I have been doing these applications for over 10 years. And we've helped many, many Iranians. And so if you're looking for a track record of people that have undergone this process, I think we sit at the table today.
Exactly. So I was going to say something similar to what you said, which is that the U.S. and access to America for a lot of Iranians is this elusive goal. And so they don't even know that they can apply for this program. But of course, when they meet us, as you said, come to our office, then they get that level of comfort, and then they can start to trust us. And also, one thing that sort of leads me to my next question is that Iranians think, well, there's no U.S. embassy or consulate in Iran, so how do
Sure.
I even apply for the EB5 program? So maybe I'll have you guys talk a little bit about that.
Well, the initial EB5 application is filed in the U.S. with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. And then you can decide where you're going to process. And for most Iranians, it's going to be in the Emirates, in Abu Dhabi, or in Turkey.
Ankara, some have gone to Armenia, but certain countries that do have consular posts or embassies, Iranians don't require a visa. So basically what happens is when you get your approval, we'll have a conversation with you and see where it makes sense for you to then go to that nearest embassy or consulate to then get your visa to the U.S. and to ultimately then to collect your green card. So I would say the top three are Abu Dhabi, Armenia, and Ankara, Turkey. But
Right.
that's what comes to my mind. But I'm sure there's
And
plenty.
those consulates have a lot of experience with Iranians because Iranians apply for EB5, but they also apply for other types of visas, and the majority of those are also issued in Ankara or Abu Dhabi. So they see Iranian applicants regularly.
And they have Iranian speakers too at
Yeah.
some of those posts. So what should they expect when they go in for that consular interview?
Well, that it's going to be much shorter than they think it's going to be. The consular officer has about 15 minutes to spend with you on average. In some cases, they will look at your case beforehand and they may just ask a few questions. In other instances, they haven't looked at your case and they'll expect you to tell them in 15 minutes, what you're doing. So typically they should not get into the questions about the investment. That's already been decided and approved by the USCIS in the US. They may ask you biographical questions. Tell me about your work history. Tell me about your previous visits to the United States. Why are you going to the United States? Who's coming with you? And in many instances, most people file for the EB5 because they want to come with their children and they want their children to get an education in the US. And sometimes those kids are very close to the age of 21 when they file. So some of the questions that the consular officer may ask are related to how the child is protected under the CSPA, Child Status Protection Act, so that they can derive the immigrant visa. As long as you file before your child turns 21, their age is locked in,
Right.
and they can get the benefit of the investment from their parent. So there's questions related to that. In certain instances, if someone has a criminal history, they can definitely expect questions on that, but that doesn't arise very frequently, and certainly not so much with our Iranian clients.
Right. And that's something that we prepare our clients on. We give them a list of questions that they should be expecting and help them in preparing the documents. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you guys wanted to add that are relevant to our Iranian clients?
For Iranian clients?
Yes.
Have you had any funny moments with Iranian clients? We certainly have.
I think Iranian clients are lovely. They're always highly educated, very eloquent, and very organized and prepared, which is a relief for me as an attorney because, everything comes organized and they know exactly what they're doing. They know the right questions to ask, and they're very easy to prepare. So I appreciate that very much. I haven't had too many funny ones. Tell us a funny story. Does it involve gourmet sabzi?
A funny one? This doesn't happen frequently, but I had one client who then came and we were speaking Farsi and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was here to speak to a US lawyer." I think they were expecting more of you and less of us. But nevertheless, you are well protected and we'd be more than happy to take you through the EB5 process. If you are Iranian and considering the US Golden Visa through the EB5 program, talk to us, why not? We can be your active guides from A to Z. We can help you collect your documents. We can help you pick the right projects to invest in and ultimately get you to your ultimate goal of making it to the US. Thank you so much, ladies. Appreciate your time. Thank you for joining. We'll see you again next time.